Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Leftovers Season 3, Episode 6. It is called Certified. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. So we did two in a row. That's an achievement right now, given how hard it's been to try and fit these in. But we're here, and this is a Laurie-focused episode. It gets somewhat dark in various places. It's also surprisingly funny in a couple of others. I was howling with laughter at a couple of points, but... we start with a flashback. She's giving therapy 2 years after the departure, so about a year before season 1, and she's giving therapy to the woman who lost her baby at the start of the show, the very first scene that we ever had in the first episode, the pilot. And she's there explaining how she was trying to have kids for years and couldn't do it. Her and her partner just couldn't do it. They went to doctors. They talked for adoption for years even. And then out of nowhere, they got pregnant, and miracles, great. And then the departure happens, and the baby's gone. So she is rather distraught.
Pretty understandably so.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 2 years.
Yeah, and look at the rest of the show. 7 years on, and there's still tons of people who haven't moved on.
I was being facetious, all right. I'm not actually expecting her to get over the loss of her baby in less than 2 years. Especially when it's not even a death. Like, I mean, a child's death's hard enough to get over, but when it just pops out of thin air, like...
Right, this is it. She's talked about how she would go back to the spot to wait for it to come back, and it's this idea that, she can't move on. She's still stuck in limbo.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of the whole point of the show. Everyone's stuck in limbo.
Yeah. But this is really driving it home, this opening scene. It's all it's about, that there, well, with her, and then just, seeing how this affects Laurie. Obviously...
She was pregnant, and we saw that last season. Actually, that was the end of season 1. We saw that, wasn't it? The flashback.
It was, it was the flashback season.
So it's all merging together now. This is the problem when we've had a couple of breaks in between season 3, is that season 1 and 2 are just kind of like smushed together.
Yeah, maybe it would have been smart to have a break between seasons, just so they distinguish themselves a bit more.
We're already running late as it is. You want to add in more breaks?
I know. I'm just saying we should have planned better.
We did plan. We planned greatly. We planned to be done for the end of August.
If we'd planned in breaks, then we might not be so far behind. Because we'd have gone, we ain't got time for this.
What?
I have no idea.
That made no sense whatsoever. Okay, so Laurie can't answer. The woman says guilty remnants outside. She like, even if she asked them what to do, they'd at least write something down, but Laurie just keeps staying silent. She has nothing to offer. She has no answers. She feels that she can't do her job anymore, and she eventually just admits, I don't know. I don't know what you should do. I have no idea. When the woman leaves, Laurie just locks her door and starts gobbling down pills.
Yes, and we have Apocalyptia playing again for this season. They're doing Metallica covers on the cellos.
Yeah, so obviously it's very, because that was very related to her the last time it played.
Yeah,
it was very much her stuff that was going on, and I have to say the loud sound effect of her gulping the pills down, like, it was making me queasy. All right, I don't need it. I don't need it in my life. And then 2 minutes later, so she lies down. She's got a suicide note. She puts it in the door and goes, "Oh no, that's a bad idea. I'll lie with it." And she lies down, all kind of coffin style, like with her hands across her chest like that. And she then realises, no, wait, this is stupid, I don't want to die, and gets back up and makes herself vomit. And the camera decided to just linger and show all the vomit hitting the floor, and it was just vile stuff. I was like, this has just put me in a bad mood right off the start.
You could have at least said it was bile stuff.
Are you actually killing me off for not using a pun?
I am, yeah.
You don't get to do that. You don't get to tell me that I should be using puns. Every time I use a pun, you complain.
I complain when they're bad puns.
Oh, that was a good pun, was it? That was a glorious pun that I should be ashamed of.
You should have got it, yeah. You had to work for that one.
So then we got the opening titles, and it's the same visuals, but with a song that doesn't match them at all.
Yeah, but it was a better song
this
time.
time. I mean, it was better than last time, I'll give you that. I don't remember it.
I thought last time's was interesting, to be fair.
Last
time was the French one.
I don't remember any of them before the last one, so I can't compare them to compare it to those. But yeah, the last one was the weird French noise.
At least the last one was memorable.
Yeah, we watched it last week. I don't know if in a few
I
weeks'
don't know,
time.
you say that, but even when we were watching through them, I couldn't tell you the previous song. Other than I didn't really like it that much. I couldn't tell you what it sounded like.
True, true. But anyway, so we have two timelines in this episode. We have kind of the present day, which is Laurie coming to the house where Grace lives, and we have Kevin Senior, we have John, we have Michael who are already there. Because obviously last time we left, and they were just getting off the boat. So obviously there's a bit of time moved ahead here. And then in the flashbacks, we see her again. It's Laurie with Nora and Matt, and they're in this this little van that we find out later on they've stolen, but they're in this van, which is what Laurie arrives in at the start as well. So we have this, and they're kind of both progressing side by side. We're kind of cutting between the two timelines. And there's little hints. It's like, oh, how did you know we were here? We find that out later in the past timeline. How did you get that black eye? Again, we find that out later in the past timeline. So it's a good structure. I think if they played it like straight and had all the Nora half first and then all the house stuff afterwards, I think it would have felt really linear. And
I don't think it would have worked that well because obviously both parts build. So
Yeah.
you would have had a build and then, okay, let's start again and build from scratch again. You have to
Exactly.
completely rewrite the whole episode.
Exactly, because they both build and they both climax towards the end of the episode, and it kind of feeds off. Because by the time you get the climax of the Nora stuff, it kind of feeds into the next scene with Kevin, and then it falls on from there. So what I'm saying is I like the structure. The structure worked really well for this episode, I thought.
I agree.
So, what side do we take? I guess we take the Nora side first because it's
I think you have to take the Nora
Yeah.
side first.
chronologically it's in place. So she's actually spying. We see that she's spying on the scientists, the two ladies who I think we maybe I don't know if I speculated at the time, but they're a couple, and I wasn't surprised they were a couple. I don't know if we ever actually said out loud.
I feel like we knew before because
Did
I
we?
wasn't surprised at all.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised either. So maybe we didn't
We
know.
must have known.
Deep
I don't
down we knew.
remember knowing, but it didn't surprise me. So
But they're a couple, and Laurie's spying on them, and a dog bites her, and she ends up having to run over the fence, and she lands kind of hard, and we get back into this van, and Nora's there, Matt's lying in the back. Matt, of course, very, very different character right now compared to what we're used to him being, because he's so disillusioned at this point.
yeah, it's strange, isn't it?
Yeah, and Nora, of course, isn't exactly the an optimistic soul right now. She's been very cynical
Is she ever?
and just like, okay, so right, we found him. What now? It's like, oh, you can go now, Laurie. We can take it from here. It's like, no, I'll stay and help. It's fine, And so obviously we know that Nora's obsessed with these people, and we've speculated in the past. Like, is it because she actually wants to use the machine? Is she actually tempted, or is it purely to prove that it's bullshit? Like that's been the discussion previously with this plot line, and here it starts to like touch on themes, and obviously I think suicide's a big theme of this episode because not only does Laurie try to commit suicide at the start, but the conversation comes up, and Laurie calls this thing, oh, I want to see this suicide machine, and she's like, oh, it's not a suicide machine. Oh, what do you mean? What is it? It's a pretty elaborate way of killing yourself, and Nora tells this story, or not story, but she's like, nah, it's not an elegant way to kill yourself. Like an elegant way to kill yourself is to go scuba diving. And she's like, what? Scuba diving? And she's like,
this is so just out there at this point.
and I want to point out she's eating an orange as she's saying all this, and it was adding this
It's
extra.
so casual, isn't it?
Exactly, it's the casual way she's just sort of throwing the oranges, like pieces of orange, into her mouth, and it's just like, oh, it's scuba diving. Anything could go wrong.
It's the way she comes out with this story of it so casually. It's like, oh, she's thought about this before. She's planned this. Like, you don't just come up with this on the spot.
She's like, oh, you could easily just like like your tube can get blocked and you can drown. This can happen. Other
Too
accidents.
much oxygen, not enough oxygen.
Yeah, and like, how would anyone know you intentionally, did that to your tube? Like, it could have just been an accident. Like, there'd be no explanations needed. No one would ask anything. They would just assume it was an accident. No one would actually speculate that you'd done it in purpose.
Yeah.
And then she cracks a joke about Matt, who's not dying elegantly because he just had cancer back again and didn't tell anyone about it and got no treatment.
And hoped for divine intervention. Classic Matt.
Yeah. Well, what I like is Laurie's like, oh, hey, that's not fair. And then Matt, no, it's fair. I deserve that. as he's like sporting one of his nosebleeds.
I'm glad he's had this, realization after the last episode, because this Matt's much more enjoyable.
It kind of is. I'm almost regretful that we didn't get a lot more of this Matt throughout the show. Like,
Yeah.
if they broke him like halfway through and we got a few episodes of him like this where he's past the point. He's cynical. He's not, he's ready to give up. He's had enough.
Obviously, Eccleston does a great job with it.
Yeah. So this keeps going, and we eventually have this moment where the lighter, which we didn't. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we never actually knew for sure if she got that lighter back from season 1.
We didn't, because we saw her reach and try and get it.
Because I think I was under the impression she didn't get it back just because of purely where the scene ended at the time.
Yeah, I remember having a discussion on whether or not, though, at the time. We obviously ended up not being sure.
Yeah, but here clearly, obviously, she has it, and she gives it to Nora, who needs a lighter, and then she asks for it back, and she's like, "Well, what do you need it for? You quit." It's like, "No, just give me it back," and it very quickly escalates. He heats up very quickly. Laurie reaches over, tries to basically take it from her, and Nora kind of fights back and ends up whacking her in the face, which gives her the black eye. Now she's very
and obviously we understand it because we know what this lighter is.
Oh sure, yeah, what it means to her. It's basically, it was like a lifeline at a time in her life when she was completely lost. She had given up everything, and this was like this one lifeline that kind of pulled her back to reality in some way, or at least was the start of that pullback.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And Nora's very apologetic afterwards. She's not like, she's like, "Oh yeah, keep taking it, you bitch." She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. Oh, how's your eye?" Like but that's when the scientists are on the move. So it's tail time. Which, by the way, see, when you started The Leftovers, did you think, in season 3 there's going to be a stakeout scene?
Not in Australia, I didn't.
Not in Australia, and certainly, I mean, maybe with Kevin because he's a cop. Sure, okay, I can buy that. But like,
yeah,
Nora and Laurie together on a stakeout. Would you have ever predicted that in season 1?
I don't think I would, especially not with Matt just casually there as well.
Yeah.
The priest on the stakeout.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, it's not even like Laurie and Nora before this season had much interaction, really.
And no, because season 2 they had the one phone call.
Yeah.
And then I think there was something at the end of season 2, but that's about it.
Not much, yeah. Certainly,
maybe just 1 or 2 scenes.
Their interaction in this episode is certainly the most I've had in terms of, an extended interaction where they're actually talking to each other in person, and they even hug and stuff like that. So and give each other black eyes. So actual interaction, it's almost like this cathartic thing where she's punching her current boyfriend's ex-wife, by accident, sure, but you can't help but feel like, deep down she enjoyed that a little bit.
Yeah, probably.
Deep down. So they follow the scientists, and they get to the place, and so it's basically just a sort of seaside location. There's a couple of big trucks that presumably have the device inside, which I'm fairly certain we'll get a glimpse at next episode, or maybe the last episode. It depends which one. It depends how they structure it.
It depends how it's structured, yeah.
Because this show can sometimes focus in on one character. Like, next episode could be nothing but Kevin and what he's doing for an episode, and then we'll get the rest of stuff in the finale. But
I would maybe think Kevin next, based off, where this one goes.
Just where it's going. Yeah, I get you. And they're watching, and Laurie's like, "Oh, is this the part where you phone the backup and come and get them busted for selling this lie?" And it's almost like that's not what she's here for. By the time she says that question, it's like, no, that's, and it's almost like
this has become too much of an obsession. And
I think it's almost why Laurie chose to stick around earlier to help.
Yeah, she knew there was more going on.
Because it's not like I think she really cared about tailing the scientists. It's not like she cared about that per se. I think she just recognised, as a therapist, she recognised that Nora, what she was doing, maybe not to the extent of exactly where it was going, but she recognised that she needed help. This wasn't just, it wasn't just help, I'll help you survey them. It was more than that. It was, no, I think you need a therapist.
Yeah, definitely. And
Nora tells a story. She's like, "Oh, Matt, do you remember, after our parents died, everyone would stare at us all the time, so people would take us places, mini golf and things like that, go to the movies, just to keep us busy. And they went to a baseball game this one time, and she didn't really understand the rules. She was quite young, but but she started paying attention to a beach ball that was going around the crowd. Like, the crowd were kind of just passing around a beach ball, and it got to them, and Matt hit it. And she said it was like the first time she'd seen him smile since their parents died. It was the first time she'd seen him happy, and it knocked into the stairs, into the aisle, and an usher ran in and deflated it, and the crowd all booed him, and she starts crying, and she's telling the story. She's like, who could do that? Who would want that job, to be the one who disappointed all these people? It wasn't just our section. The entire crowd were booing him because he ruined the fun. He ruined what was going on. And, why would anyone do that? And Laurie, gently but bluntly, because if it got into the field, it would be complete chaos.
Yes, total effing chaos, I think it was the phrase.
And Nora understands. Like, she doesn't want to understand, but she understands. She understands that...
She gets that this isn't about just her. This isn't about, her getting the enjoyment. It's about, okay, if this is, if the whole world gets this, there's going to be chaos.
Exactly. And, one of the main themes starts playing, and she's like, are you going to tell Kevin that I'm doing this? And she's like, hey, give me some money. she
Yeah, give me $1. I've only got hundreds.
What I thought was funny is, I was like, given that she thinks she's about to commit suicide, why not just take the 100? I mean, if anything, that's probably closer to what she charged.
It probably is, but mates rates.
But anyway, she's like, okay, you're officially a therapist now. So patient, doctor confidentiality. And she's like, all right, Matt, do you want to drive or shall I? And then he's like, nah, I'm going to stay here. I think people should be with family. And it's like, it's this sweet moment. And what was funny about this episode is, you could honestly tell me that the next episode was the last episode, and that the only person we were going to get next episode was Kevin, and that was the finale. Because this episode kind of gave an ending to a lot of other characters. I mean, I don't think it's the last time we've seen Nora, but if you told me this was the last time we've seen her, this was kind of a touching moment to
honestly,
let her
if
go
not
on.
for the stuff that we had at the end of the very first episode with future Nora.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, we know
it was. So I was like, okay, so I know there's got to be more with Nora's stuff. There's got to be more going on here. But if I didn't have that in the back of my mind, I might think that, is this the end for Nora? Especially if there's only one episode left.
Yeah, and obviously we know it's not, but like, this could work as a final scene for her.
Yeah, good.
She can't let go of her kids. She can't do it. She just can't let go. So, and it was actually funny later on when Nora's like talking to her, and she's like, "Oh, do read me like you do with John," and the people come in and do their handprints. Do it for me. And she's like, "Oh no, I can't. We don't do departures." And then Matt just from the back seat's like, "Our parents are dead. Do that."
Like I said, I love Matt in this episode.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. But no, it's really touching scene. Like, just like Laurie, especially since Laurie and Nora haven't exactly been close. Like I've said, we've not seen them together that much. But the hug felt really genuine, and Laurie walking away and letting her do her thing, because as much as she's a therapist, she understands that she can't just not do it. Like, she can't fix this. She can't like explain to her that this is dangerous or whatever. And we see at the start of the episode, she once tried to kill herself. She understands how broken she is right now and why she needs to do this. Whether it works, whether it doesn't. I mean, will they even let? I mean, the last time she got turned down, it's not like, what's she going to do? Go down there and hold them up at gunpoint and say, right, turn on your machine, I'm going in. So there's other steps to still take, but like it does feel like this bittersweet, touching goodbye right now. And again, we know it's not, but it plays so authentically like that it works really well for the emotional side.
Yeah, and of course, obviously, so you've got the music in there. It always works, doesn't it, on this show? Like, every single time it comes in, it's like, okay, here's a moment.
Yeah, which, I mean, it would fall flat if the acting was terrible, but luckily for the show, the acting is off through the roof, typically.
Yeah, it's top quality.
So that was kind of it, and then she goes to, so we sort of come back to the start of the episode and start the other timeline in the episode, where she goes to the house. Kevin's not there. Kevin apparently has went out horseback riding to be alone and think for the day. So,
because of course he has.
So she's there with Kevin Senior, who's like, oh, yeah, Laurie, or Lorianne, as he uses the full... Lorelai, there you go. Uses her full name. John's there, and he's like very suspicious. How are you here? What's going on? How did you even know? Obviously, we find out later on that Michael's the one who
I
called
think
that.
it's pretty clear quite early though. He's just shifty about it, isn't he?
He's shifty. Because again, he's got a conscience. Again, he has to.
And again, there's only a few suspects. If it's not John, and obviously it's not Kevin, it's probably Michael in it.
Probably. I mean, unless she went like some other avenue, like she went hunting somewhere. But when you see her plotting, she's just with Nora and she's not actively looking for them. It's like, okay, someone must just tell her because we're not getting there any other way. And she finds out what the plan is. She hears the story. She hears the story about the cop that was killed, the bodies under the church. Of course, she's like, this is crazy. All you are nuts. What am I doing here? We're in Australia. You're killing people.
We're in Australia.
Which leads to actually the biggest laugh I may have ever given out. This might even top my Gary Busey laugh.
I don't know about that. It's up there, but I'm not sure about that one.
It's when she's talking to John in the house, and this other cops came by, a police officer who's presumably looking for his superior, who's been missing for a few days or however long it's been.
One would assume, yeah.
And so the cops outside talking to Kevin Senior and Grace, and we have Laurie and we have John in the scene, and they're basically arguing about how she knows she's there, because he says, "Oh, where's Nora?" And she says, "I can't disclose that information." And I love John's reaction. Actually, he's like, "You can't disclose that." So you can't tell me you can't disclose that. But they're talking, and in the background you just see Kevin Senior at the police officer at the back of the head with a shovel, and of course Laurie and John just kind of notice and stop and look, and like, oh, and she's like, "Oh my god!" And then I was howling with laughter the entire time. This was like proper slapstick.
It was, and then Kevin Senior's like, "You better to come out and help."
And she's like, no, I'm complicit with this bullshit. I need to get away from here now.
So it's great. There's another really good laugh with in this plot, I think. Go
on.
It's with the dog.
Oh, is this after she's
Yeah.
Okay? So she keeps saying, like, because they keep, and you get the impression that Kevin might knock her out as well if she's like going to like come between the plan. So the plan is that he still believes he has to save the world by finishing this song that we learned about in his episode. And he wants Kevin to go to the Hotel Afterlife to talk to the dead man to get his part of the song and then come back so he can finish the song and save the world. And of course, she's sitting there and she's like, "Oh, go on, tell us we're crazy." I'm like, no, just...
So I'm not going there. I'm not touching that with a barge pole.
But it's funny though, because we've already heard from her in the past, when someone's having a psychotic break, you don't tell them they're having a psychotic break.
Yeah. Does that apply to a group collective?
I think it does, because I think you're in more danger if you tell a group collective they're all going psycho and like all three of them go, "What?"
It's a shared delusion.
Yeah, they all start going nuts. And we find out what everyone else wants. Like she has that really sweet scene with John where he's like, "Oh yeah, like I believe Evie's there, and I want Kevin to talk to her." And she's like, "What do you want to ask her? Why she left her family?" And I almost thought she was going to offer her thing because she kind of did that already before. Which that's how that opening scene ends. After she tries to commit suicide, she gets dressed in white and goes out and asks the guilty remnant what she.
John, I was a little surprised, just based on this was 2 years after, so this was only a year before the first season. I didn't realize it. Was given how high she got in those ranks.
No, that sounds right. I remember like Kevin and that talking about how long she'd been gone and stuff back in season 1. So admittedly she was quite high ranking at the time, but it made sense from what we'd heard back then as well.
No, I don't doubt it. I'm sure it has, like it's backed up. I just surprised me. I guess I'd just forgotten.
And so John says, no, I don't want to ask her anything. I just want him to pass on a message to her. I just want her to know she was loved. Which is actually a really touching little moment. It's like, I don't even want an explanation. I don't care. What does it matter now? She's dead. I want her to know that it doesn't matter what she did. I still love her. And I'm like, okay, that was a really sweet moment. I thought that was a really well done.
And of course, again, it parallels with Laurie's story again. It's like, okay, if that had been, if Kevin had just said that to her when she tried to leave, would that have been like a way to get her to come back?
Maybe.
Instead of going, why did you leave? Because obviously we saw how Kevin really questioned and went down that route.
Yeah, because he kind of got obsessive about him, like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you leaving? And fair questions, don't get me wrong. Your partner just goes to a cult. Yeah. without explanation, you have questions. That makes a lot of sense. But obviously, John's at a lot more peace in that sense. But he actually says to her, he's like, "Hey, if you want me to drop this right now, if you want us to go home, if you want me to drop this right now, if you think I'm crazy, then we'll drop this and go home." But again, Laurie understands that he has to complete this. Like, he's on this path. He's going through this for his grief. He has to finish this through.
Yeah.
And of course, we have Grace as well, who wants to know what happened to all her kids' shoes. Remember, we had the story of them walking out and dying.
Her one feels almost like it's a test, just to prove that Kevin was, because it's something verifiable.
Oh, sure, yeah, I can see that. I still think she wants to know, though.
I think she does, but I think this is a practical one. Where are the shoes? If you get an answer, we can go and find those, and we can prove that you were somewhere, that this is real and not a delusion.
That's true. But of course, we should mention there's something we forgot to talk about last week in relation to this place. We forgot to mention that the quote unquote god on the boat in the red hat was the same actor as the guy who was in the sort of, the singing lounge in the hotel and was previously before that on the bridge with Kevin, and was making the noose. Which, I mean, lends credence to the fact that he's God. Or, I suppose, in retrospect though, thinking about it, does it maybe suggest that he went there after he fell off the cliff?
Yeah, and then came back.
That's
what I was thinking. I mean, the difference is, why did he come back? We've got some theories, or at least Matt's thrown around some theories as to why Kevin's been coming back, but why this guy? What made him different as well?
I don't know. Well, he thinks Matt's Jesus, so is it really that silly that, that this guy's God?
Probably not.
Think about it. Just think about it. But no, we forgot to talk about that last week, and I think it does raise these ideas that, again, is this place real? Like, especially since it's not like Kevin saw him in the real world and went,
it's
"Oh,
not
I recognize
like that
you."
thing of when everyone you see in a dream is someone that you've seen somewhere. Like, your brain just doesn't create faces.
But this is for us as an audience, because we've seen him there and then we've seen him here. Now, it could just be a coincidence. He could just look like him. In fact, we've heard about this identical twin brother business. He spoke about Jesus, and Kevin's on the other side. Like, is that just a case of this, where he's the identical twin of this guy? If he had one, that is, or just spiritually speaking, at least. So I don't know, but interesting stuff. So this is all going through. Laurie's saying that she's going to let them just go through with whatever. She's going to let them kill him on the seesaw, get into the water, and that'll be it. She'll let it go happen. But then, because Kevin Senior happened to mention that he had overdosed on, well, not overdosed, but he'd taken the dog's pain pills, and they're stronger than the human pills, so it made him pass out. Laurie spikes all of their food for dinner with these dog pills, and it makes them all pass out. It's very Last Supper, which is what Kevin Senior keeps saying, and he keeps referencing, like, "Oh, so you must be, well, you're already John, so you be John."
And of course he's Peter.
Yeah.
The right hand man, the one in charge.
Yeah, and he tries to tell Laurie that she's Thomas, but she's like, no, I'm Judas. No, I'm the one who betrays you. And then Michael's like, yeah, but then he killed himself.
Yeah, and here's that suicide theme coming in again.
Yeah. And she's like, I didn't know that part of the story. But of course, she's betraying them here because she knocks them all out. So she's kind of fitting into this story, with almost willingly. She's kind of filling that role in a weird way.
She's writing herself into the narrative.
Yeah, and she waits outside for Kevin, and Kevin appears back on his horse. We haven't seen him all episode. He just shows up here, and he's like, "Oh, hey, Laurie," and they sit down, and they both smoke, even though she's quit, as she's mentioned. She uses the lighter that Jill gave her, and he's like, "Oh, that's another one Jill gave you," and she admits that she threw it in the drain, and it becomes this thing because the smoking's kind of often represented not forgetting in this show. It's always been about keep remembering what happened.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny that here they're both smoking, but they're both basically admitting all their lies. They're like, okay, there's all these things that we've lied to each other about over the years. She went
It's
to
a really, really fun scene, isn't it?
It's a really fun scene because it's kind of like this reminiscent thing where, okay, back at the time we might have been pissed about this, but oh yeah, by the way, that one
But
time
now, who gives a shit?
I was supposed to go to a conference, but instead I went to a spa that cost $2,000 a night.
Yeah, and Kevin killed Jill's hamster.
Yeah, and they're reminiscing about these things, and I'm like, okay, I know where this is going. I know what she's about to confess, and she brings up the baby. She's like, I was pregnant, and he's like, what? Well, when? It's like, 7 years tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he gets it. It's just that moment. So why didn't you tell me? He's like, well, I mean, didn't want to, then I didn't have to, and
Yeah. And you know, she was like, did you even want more kids? And it's like, no, not really, not with you at least. And you know, she's the same.
yeah, it's this mutual thing. But I think the most interesting touch for me is that this really, like, she says this is a goodbye. Like, she's just there to say goodbye. She wants to say goodbye to him. He's been an important part of her life, and you think it's because she thinks he's about to die. Of course, the end of the episode maybe implies that she's also kind of made a choice as well. But what I think is very interesting for the scene, though, is at the end, he's like, oh, here's your lighter back. And we saw her fight for that with Nora earlier in the episode. And she says, no, you need it. I quit. And what I like about this is that when Jill gave that to her, it was because she was lost in this, I don't want to say cult, because it's not specifically a cult with Kevin. I mean, you could argue this is a small cult, but, she
The
was...
cult of Kevin.
The cult of Kevin. She was lost in this world. She was lost in her insanity, if you will. She was detached from life. She had these delusions, and this was a lifeline back. And I like the idea that in this scene, she recognizes that Kevin's now the one who needs that lifeline.
I think also it's that she doesn't need it anymore. Like even after all this time, she's been holding on to it. You know, like you said, we saw her fight for it. She still needs this reminder, and I think having this conversation with Kevin now, and all the things that she's gone through in this episode, she's like, do you know what? I don't need this. I know who I am. I know what I'm gonna do. I know, I don't need to be reminded.
Yeah, but I think she knows he does, though. I think
yeah.
He needs that lifeline. He needs to
A reason to come back from the dead.
yeah, precisely. And I like that a lot. I like that they brought this back up. It was because that scene where she got the lighter, that scene where he was asking her the questions in season 1 was probably the first really truly fantastic scene in this show. Like, just in the sense that was the first one I remember really like, oh man, this is fantastic. Like, I'm really getting into this. So kind of harkening back to that was a really nice touch in the sense that, okay, that was the first time you really pulled at my heartstrings and you really got me. And to sort of use that to propel forward now and say, let's no, Kevin's at that point now. As much as she was the one that seemed like she was more screwed up at the time because she was in a cult, she was just further along in the stages than he was. She was already past the sort of doubt that he was in earlier on. Yeah. She got there sooner. She got there about a year earlier, in fact, that day at our office. So I think that's just fascinating, comparing how they've both been on the same journey to an extent, but separated by time. He took longer. And of course now people think he's the second coming, which is obviously a big difference as well. But yeah,
that kind of the metaphor falls apart when she reached that point. Kind of just stopped before that.
Which reminds me, actually, the just earlier on, Nora actually bringing up, "Oh, you did Departed when you got replicas of my kids and my husband and set them up in my kitchen."
Yeah, she's still angry about that.
Yeah, that felt like a low blow, and Laurie didn't really have anything to say to it because like she knew that was.
She was like, "Yeah, that was pretty shitty. I did do that."
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I have to own that. So we cut to the next morning. So it's the morning of the 17th. So as much as I'm convinced we'll see Nora again, I'm not entirely sure if we'll see Laurie again.
I think we definitely won't. I think even before this, we get to this scene when she says goodbye to Kevin and she walks off. I'm like, that was an exit of the show. Yeah,
she's saying goodbye to us as well. No, I can see that. It's still obviously ambiguous enough that if they wanted her to show up, they absolutely could. But yeah, it does feel like an exit because she's out in a boat. She's going scuba diving just to tie it in nicely to the story that Nora was telling her earlier. And there's a storm coming, and the guy's like, hey, if you want to go, you need to go now. She's suiting up. And again, it was kind of like at the start of the episode, she was like sort of suiting up to like die as well, at the time. and she gets a phone call, and it's Jill. You know, obviously not seen Jill since the first episode of the season. She's there, and it's just a stupid thing. It's just this. She wants to like. Do you remember the name of this TV show? This video that I got when I was like 5, and it had these things. There was a rainbow, and there was this other thing, and you can hear Tom in the phone. Like they're obviously hanging out together back home.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, it didn't exist." It's like, "It did exist. Shut up, Mom. Do you remember this thing?" And she's like, "Oh, it was called this." And she laughs, and it's kind of like this the final thing, because one of the things she said to Kevin in the previous scene was, you know, we had 2 great kids. That was the last great thing we ever did. It was the best thing.
The best thing that they ever did.
Yeah. And it was like they're going to be okay. Now I still don't know if this is. I mean, as much as she's doing this for herself because she's realised that this is like kind of all that's left for her. That she has nothing she wants to be around for, and she knows their kids are grown up. They've left the nest. They can be fine. Like they're never going to know what happened to her. Maybe if they find the body, okay, they'll find out, and then they'll be like, oh, this horrible accident happened. But yeah, just from a selfish point of view, in terms of suicide, like I feel like you're still going to put your kids through the you know, you dying at this younger age than you should.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think she's past that though. Like you know, like we say, she was broken for so long. She's put them through so much that I think to her this is almost a you know, this isn't that big compared to what she put them through for years.
Because I think that was the one thing that was making me think she might not actually be committing suicide here. Because we don't see her we see her go into the water, and that's
I knew it was going to stay on that shot.
Yeah, we leave lingering just on the empty boat, and then it cuts to the titles and silence,
and you just hear the waves.
And it's a really, really nice ending, and obviously it implies, but I think it's also intentionally kind of ambiguous. Like it's like.
It is, because I think even the end of the phone call, it's the way, you know, she makes a point of saying love you to both the kids, you know, like pass it along, you know, like this again could be like, that could be a final, you know, I want to make sure I say this before I go. Or alternatively, it could be this is why I need to stay. Yeah,
that's kind of what I was, because it felt like, oh, is this suicide? And then she spoke to them and I went, maybe it's not, maybe it's just a case of, and I almost actually kind of believe this more, really thinking about it, is she's doing this to, you know, have the experience and be close to death, and kind of like she did back at the start, because, you know, getting close to suicide and coming back's been a big thing. Kevin especially since I never even thought about it when we were talking about him, like you know, in the bag, you know, the head over his head and stuff, but just the idea that he was like almost trying to go back to the hotel to see if he could, but he kept chickening out, you know, at the last second. But like she's like falling over the boat, and I do have to part of things like, you know, she's doing this almost to defy the death story and take the risk, and this is the end of her on the show because she's like, everyone else is still screwed up. She tried to help them all the best she could. She gave Kevin the letter, she gave John the advice, she talked to everyone, and she did what she could. She helped Nora the best she could, but she realised that she's actually okay now and they're not. So she's going to go off, and she's not saying anything really sappy to her kids because she is planning them back to see them. Because the kids are also okay now, which is why they've mostly been off this season. Because
no need.
The story's kind of done. They've kind of gotten to that point.
Like I said, the phone call to me can still go as, you know, a final. Like, you know, it's like that's why she chooses to answer it. Like, you know, because she hesitates before she does, and it's almost like, no, I want to speak to her one last time.
Yeah, that part reads that. I think for me, the reason why I shift more to, no, she's just actually willing to live her life now and let all this go, is because I think once she actually talks to her and we hear her on the phone with the kids, I think that's the point where I go, okay, you know what, I'm not really on your side anymore if you go through with this, if that's what you're doing. You know, like,
no, that's
I think as a person, like, I don't like you anymore if you're still going to kill yourself.
I guess the argument is, you know, you're saying, oh, she's okay now, if that's the read.
Yeah.
The other read is, she's not really okay, but she's accepted she's not okay, and she's never going to be okay, and she doesn't want that. So this is the way to end that.
Or like, she's not okay, she's never going to be okay, but that's okay because everyone's like that. We're all messed up. And
I mean, I think I really like this ending because I don't want to hear anything about Laurie in the next 2 episodes. I don't want to know. I want it just to be left as this shot, and you choose, take your pick.
Yeah, I think it's intentionally ambiguous. Obviously, you immediately jump to suicide because it's set up early in the episode. Scuba diving, easy way to kill yourself. and that's all it might be.
Yeah, and even the way the guy on the boat is like, like, it's now or never. Like, you've got to make your choice. It feels like he knows he's in on the plan almost.
Oh, I don't get that at all. Because the way he's saying that, it's like, you need to go down so you can be back up before the storm hits.
It could be, but the way he says, I'm not going any further. This is where you do it if you're going down. It's almost like, well, this is just in the middle of nowhere then. This isn't the spot that you're supposed to go scuba diving. So it's almost, it could be a way of he's there and go, okay, so I'll tell them there was an accident.
Or you would just be going out further if there was no storm. That's what I read that as.
It could be.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he knows. I didn't read that at all.
Yeah, fair enough.
But no, I like the ending as well. I like the ambiguity. I like the idea that we have to just kind of like how life is uncertain. We don't really know what she picked, and
yeah, you don't know the outcome to everything in life. You know some things you can make. You have enough information to make it your own opinion and an educated guess, but you sometimes you can't be certain.
Yeah, I think she's alive. She didn't kill herself. That's my stance.
I'm really not sure. I'm completely 50-50. I really don't know.
The phone call with Jill cinched it for me.
Like I said, I like that. You can take this how you want. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'll make up my mind at some point of before I watch the next episode or before I finish the show. Maybe I will. But I like that. If I said, I think she's dead, you can't really go, no, definitely not.
Oh, you can't. Like I say, it's intentionally ambiguous.
Yeah.
So there you go. Episode, because that's how it ends, and that's us. So that's episode 6 done. Oh, cat. Oh,
of course it is.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention the time I really laughed was after she did the pills, and drugged them all, and then she learned to look at the dog and goes, "I took your pills."
Yeah, it was a really kind of comical look she gave him.
Yeah,
it was really close up. It was kind of over the shoulder, kind of like. Yeah, no, it was funny. So no, that has been episode 6 of The Leftovers. We will be back hopefully next week with episode 7. And so let us know what you think of this one in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can do that over there. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching TV. We'll see you next time.